Hello, my name is Bruce Kimball, and I'm a retired collaborator at the Arid Land Agricultural Research Center. I worked for the Agricultural Research Service of USDA for 40 years, and I retired about 10 years ago. But I like doing research so much that I've just kept right on doing it. Never quite figured out how to retire, and I love doing research. I was born in Minnesota, and I grew up on a dairy farm in northern Minnesota. And while I was growing up, I had a keen interest in science. I wanted to become a scientist. And on the farm, I loved working with plants. I hated the cows, but I really liked working with plants. So after graduating from high school, I went to the University of Minnesota, and I enrolled in the College of Agriculture in the Soils Department. And in the Soils Department, I was referred to a particular advisor who advised students that were really planning to go to graduate school. And he was a soil physicist, and under his guidance, I took a lot of mathematics courses, and as well as all the soils courses and agronomy and so forth. And anyway, I'm the only person I know of who graduated with a soils major and a mathematics minor. But anyway, that was getting me on my way to become a scientist. And then I went to Iowa State University and I got a master's degree there. The particular professor that I had was a real mathematician, but I decided that I didn't really like going for a PhD there because it was all math and no plants. So I went to Cornell University where I got my PhD degree. And so I had a soil physics major, an applied physics minor, and a crop physiology minor. And then my first job was at the U.S. Water Conservation Laboratory in Phoenix. And that's part of the USDA Agricultural Research Service. And in 2006, they moved us down to Maricopa to become part of the Arid Land Agricultural Research Center. So like I said, I worked for ARS for 40 years and then retired. Anyway, while I was at the water lab, I first started working with greenhouses because I thought they could really save water if you put a cover over a crop, and that worked. And while I was doing that, I started putting CO2 in the greenhouses to make the atmosphere inside the best it could be. And I was increasing the yields of tomatoes by about 40% or so, and so that was pretty exciting. But the problem was I was running up the expenses of the production system by about 40% too, so it wasn't something to go selling to the growers. And then my advisors suggested, well, at this time, the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere is going up, and you've learned all this stuff about CO2, why don't you start applying it to the open field situation? So at that time, I didn't quite know how to do it in an open field, but I started using chambers that had an open top on them, an open top chamber, and led a major experiment with cotton and one with orange trees. And both of those crops were just very highly responsive to CO2. We increased yields of cotton by about 40%, and the orange trees by about 60%. So that was really quite exciting to have those huge yield increases with added CO2. But still, the question remained, does that really apply out in a real open field like a farmer would use? And then I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time, where there's some folks at the Department of Energy and Brookhaven National Laboratory that also wanted to enrich crops and ecosystems right out in an open field. And so collaborating with them, we did the first free air CO2 enrichment experiment, FACE, out in an open cotton field in Maricopa. And we were the first ones to demonstrate that you could actually do it out in an open field. And that caused quite a stir and a lot of interest. We had like 50 scientists here for a later wheat experiment going on. And anyway, that kind of became the gold standard for how to do this kind of research, and it caught on around the world. And since then there have been lots of FACE experiments done around the world studying how CO2, increasing CO2 in the atmosphere actually will affect crop production. We did it on cotton first, and that increased yields about 40% as well, kind of confirming what happened in the open top chambers. Wheat not so much, closer to 20%, and then we did sorghum. That's kind of a different kind of a tropical grass plant called a C4, and the yields of the sorghum did not increase at all, which is good to know, even although water use was stopped somewhat, or reduced somewhat. But then funding dried up on that. But one of the dubious benefits of not having funding was I had more time to think and tinker. And then I started saying, well, you know, the warming is a thing that people really get excited about, and not so much the CO2 by itself. So I started putting infrared heaters out over crops to see what that would do to crop production. And I found that I could do that and control them successfully. And so that then is what we started doing then. We were having T-phase, or temperature controlled enhancement. And the temperature helps crop production when it's already cold, and really hurts the crop a lot if it's already warm. And so anyway, the T-phase caught on all around the world. And since retirement, I've been helping other people get lots of T-phase experiments started. I'm helping one get started now at the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix. They're studying monarch butterflies, and the plants they live on are the milkweed. So this is a milkweed experiment. And I'm helping a group of Australians that are going to put the heaters on a trolley that goes across from plot to plot in a wheat field. So anyway, that's what keeps me busy these days. Is helping other experimenters get T-phase experiments going. And I'm also doing a lot of work now with crop growth modeling and so forth. So I'm not leading any field experiments anymore, but I still love doing research. And what I'm doing mostly now is research on the computer, and I'm having a great time in retirement. And I strongly recommend a career in science just because it's a really fun thing to do. Thank you for your attention. Bye.